Good morning, Venters. Guys, what makes a walk really fun is when you can hear a story that kind of makes you say, wow, that's kind of interesting. That's why we all used to love Unsolved Mysteries back in the 80s, right? We had so many good shows back in the day, and I think that's why I love YouTube. YouTube, if you look at it from top to bottom, has so many talented creators that share stories in their own unique ways that it almost takes me back to when we were younger and had really good shows that we all used to watch together. The only difference is, because there's so many choices, many of us don't necessarily watch these shows together anymore. But I still want to tell you about this one video I saw. I don't remember the name of the creator, but I do have it, so I'll put it here on the screen so you can read it. But anyway, he was sharing the story of a FBI agent named John O'Neill. Guys, in the 1970s, John O'Neill started his FBI career, and in the 80s and 90s, he became part of the FBI's anti-terrorism unit. As a matter of fact, throughout the 80s and 90s, he started actually charting and keeping track of Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden and a lot of their terror cells, and he feared that they were starting to come onto American soil, and he actually kind of knew that something was going to start happening and attacks were imminent. In 1993, when the blind sheik or blind Oman, I forget what he was, but he attacked the World Trade Centers originally, he kind of knew that that was a pretense of things to come. And he actually started to become obsessed with Obama and Al-Qaeda in the late 90s, predicting that eventually they would do something very big and incredibly tragic. Little did he know how prophetic his words would be. He became so obsessed with Al-Qaeda that when he went to a trip in Yemen, the U.S. ambassador there actually kind of barred him from the country, kind of barred him from doing anything. And he started clashing with a lot of the higher ups. One of the things that he really hated in the early 2000s was the fact that he already noticed that those three-letter organizations of ours, you know, the CIA and the FBI, he started noticing that they each held their own intel close to the vest and were not willing to divulge and share that important information with one another. Now, you and I both know that since then, they've kind of taken away that wall that was dividing them, and now all of the different three-letter agencies are able to communicate better. But the crazy thing was because he became so obsessed with his profession, he ultimately felt like they were stonewalling him at every turn, almost like every warning he gave wasn't heeded. And he actually got to the point where he felt like resigning. So in 2001, the summer of 2001, he resigns and he ends up taking a job as the head of security at the World Trade Center. Isn't that crazy? Now, earlier that year, President George W. Bush, in a briefing, was told that within X amount of months, he should expect some sort of attack on American soil. Little did he know that just a month or two later, the attack at the World Trade Centers would happen. Apparently, when the World Trade Center attack happened, and I watched it live, I'm sure a lot of you guys did, apparently the first plane hit the North Tower, and apparently John O'Neill was in the second tower, and when the second tower was struck, he actually led and started helping people evacuate the building. He was going in and out of the building, getting as many people to safety as he could, when all of a sudden that South Tower ended up collapsing and John O'Neill met with his peril. It's a real important story because so many times when people like myself try to warn you of things that are coming, a lot of times it's just real easy to ignore the warnings. Jesse? Yes, Bob? Are you trying to tie this back to walking? I sure am, Bob. Guys, I am the John O'Neill of walking. I'm letting you guys know now that while life appears perfect and peachy, the reality is a heart attack or stroke could be right around the corner. What's the best way that we could avoid that future? By putting on our shoes and walking, by eating better, right? Because we all eat like crap, and by actually trying our best to get rid of some of that stress that's aging us like crazy. Now, we both know that when it comes to 9/11, there's a lot of conspiracy theories, and there's a lot of interesting things that happened with that. Don't even get me started on building number 7, right? If you ever deep dive into that, you're gonna find some stuff that'll really make you scratch your head. But at the same time, we can't go back to 2001. We can't go back in time and stop 9/11, although I think the US military probably could. But what we can do is we can look into that crystal ball of our life and we can say, you know what? Jesse's right. I'm overweight. I eat junk food all the time. If it doesn't affect my body, it's definitely going to affect my teeth. Jesse, aren't teeth a part of your body? I suppose. But your teeth technically can be lost. And if they are lost, then you'll really wish that you would have ate better, right? Stay away from the sugar. Even if it doesn't take you out and take your heart out, it can make your teeth fall out, and we don't want any of that. So what do we do to remedy it, Jesse? Well, we walk every single day, we drink water every single day, and we avoid sugar like the plague. And if we stick to this game plan, which by the way is the reason most people fail at diet and exercise, they don't have a game plan. So if you're hearing my voice for the very first time, this is our game plan, damn it. We're gonna do it as a team, and if you join this team, we're gonna be undefeated, because there's nothing but winning that goes on this team. You're a venter now, so put your shoes on and let's go for a beautiful walk together. So anyway, I thought that story was interesting. I always find a lot of stories like that interesting, but you wanna know something? If John O'Neill truly felt in his heart and his soul and his entire being that Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden were eventually going to attack the Twin Towers, then I have to assume that the reason he wanted to work there was so that he could actually witness it when it happened. In other words, if you or I, not having the strength and courage of someone like John O'Neill, knew that there was a good chance that a particular building was going to be attacked by terrorists, we would probably take that knowledge and we would probably work anywhere but that building. John, I think, wanted to prove himself right. I used to do that in poker. I would have a hand and somebody would go all in and I would just say, my goodness, I know that this person doesn't have nothing. But instead of going with my gut, I would fold my, pair of deuces or whatever. And then sure enough, that's when the guy shows you a bluff, right? So then the question is, do you guys think John O'Neill took that job knowing that his prophecy would kind of come to fruition? Or do you think he just took that job because it paid well? The reality is he probably just took that job because it paid well, and he probably hoped that if there was an attack, it would happen well after he left the business, so to speak. That's probably the reality. But that doesn't make for a good story like this one did. Let's go ahead and listen to a couple of these comments from this video, because I found them really interesting. And by the way, I had 5 cards here, but if I would have read those cards to you, it wouldn't have been as fun. It would have been really choppy. So I'm hoping by me keeping it vague, hopefully you got the gist of the story. Gentleman by the name of @B-Cooper says, imagine being pushed out of your job because you're obsessed with what you are assigned to do. That's exactly what happened. This guy was going to everybody he could, saying we need to do something about this communication between the FBI and the CIA and the counterterrorism units of this country. We need to be able to all communicate in unison. He also was constantly going to different people around the world saying you need to be aware of this, that, and the other. And people started getting tired of it, thinking he was a little too overzealous, They end up getting rid of him. And then, of course, we all know what happened on 9/11/2001. At Ryan H. 2479 says, all the folks that dismissed John O'Neill's warnings, all the people that dismissed his warnings probably faced no repercussions, had long careers and multiple promotions, and they are now retired with full pensions, and it's disgusting. I don't know about you. One of the things that I have that I think some people are lacking is guilt. And if there was a gentleman that told me that there was these terror cells known as Al-Qaeda, right? And that these terrorists led by Osama bin Laden's magical words from wherever he was hiding around the world, if somebody had told me that if I didn't do something, they were going to do something horrific, like fly planes into the World Trade Centers, I would have probably thought that, hey, this isn't something that's that big of a deal. You're stressing out over nothing. But if they would have told me that, and then lo and behold, 9/11 comes, then I think even if I got many promotions after that, and even if I was able to retire a multimillionaire, I think that because of the guilt that I would have for not acting on that knowledge that John O'Neill gave me, I think that would be enough to make life miserable. But again, I have a conscience, I have guilt, right? I would not want to know that because I ignored warnings from John O'Neill, which, by the way, it's not like they were ignoring warnings from a 24-hour, it's not like they were ignoring warnings from a person like you or me, some sort of YouTuber or some sort of person watching a program on TV. They ignored the warnings of somebody that his whole career was about finding out what to warn you about. That's what's so sick. Somebody says, we never needed the Patriot Act. All we needed was for people like John O'Neill to be listened to. I'm going to take that one step further. How about this? We never needed tirzepatide. We never needed Ozempic. We never needed Wegovy. All we needed to do was to put shoes on and get out the door and walk. So here's the thing. You and I can be upset that nobody heeded the warnings of John O'Neill, including himself, right? But who's going to be upset with us when we're no longer here? It's not going to be us. It's going to be our family members when they're going through a tough time and they need advice and you're not there to give it to them. It's going to be our sons and daughters when they get married and your daughter wants her father to walk her down the aisle and give her away, and you're not going to be there because you didn't heed the warnings. Remember what they always tell us with heart attack and stroke victims. They always feel normal until it happens. Now, John O'Neill passed away in that South Tower, right? Even though he knew it was coming. So if you guys ever see me just drop down and all of a sudden you wonder what the heck happened to Jesse in Walk Talk Vent, if I ever drop down, that does not mean that my message is invalid. If I ever drop down, I hope there's more people that put on their shoes and walk the very next day. The walk must go on. Right, Sean? Right, Mala? Right, Carla? At Servant of Jesus Christ says, we've been played by our leaders for decades, even centuries. Yeah, like I said earlier, don't even get me started on Building 7. From what I understand, there's a lot of stuff that we as creators aren't really supposed to talk about. So I want you to know that my thought behind this story is not for you to stress over 9/11 and what happened or what really happened. My thought is for you to break this down and look at your life from a John O'Neill perspective. He ended up dying from something he was hoping to prevent. More than likely, you, me, and many others are going to die from illnesses as we get older that we would like to at least try to prevent. And one of the best things we can do is take a daily walk. Isn't that awesome? Walking is so easy and so fun, and if you stick to the shade, it's really pleasant too. At St. Naeus says, obviously the people he was warning knew too much, which is why they did nothing about it. God, I don't know about you, but again, when it comes to guilt, could you imagine if all these conspiracy theories were true and that people really did know when bad stuff was going to happen and they earned their paycheck just by kind of toting the company line? I don't think I could enjoy that living, could you? I bet you to this day, there's some man or woman that's in their 70s or 80s that's really depressed because they lost a brother or sister or family member in that tragedy. Love this next guy's name. If you guys know who this person is, let me know down in the comments. His name is @LukeDuke7773. So again, if you guys know who Luke Duke is, let me know what show he was on. His comment says, "The truth, like running water, can't be stopped." I agree. The truth is, life is short. Whether you're John O'Neill or not, more than likely John would have passed away of natural causes by now. However, each and every day, people all around the world are living into their 90s and into their 100s. How do they do that? Is it just by luck and chance? Well, I suppose for a couple of them it is, but I'd also be willing that a couple of them probably eat good and they probably try to stay as active as possible. So here's my next question for you guys. There's a 911 on the horizon for all of our lives. Some of us are going to get hit by a heart attack. Some of us are going to be hit by a stroke. Some of us are going to be hit by the big C, and heck, some of us are going to be hit by a car. That's probably the one downfall to walking. It actually increases your chances of being eliminated by a car. So keep your head up on a swivel. Keep walking every day, because besides being hit by a car, there's so many benefits that outweigh that, right? Just keep your eyes on the damn cars. Those people are crazy out there, but that doesn't give you permission to be crazy. Think about your health. Think about doing something better. Try baby steps. If you're walking 30 minutes today, let's see if we can get you up to 60 minutes tomorrow. Keep going. I'm here with you every single day. Hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and come back tomorrow. I'll see you then. Have a good night.